More red flags have been raised about Donald Trump's response to this shooting incident that occurred over the weekend at the White House when Donald Trump first was supposed to be at Bedminster, then he was at the White House and he didn't go to his son's wedding. And then while lots of media networks were taping their kind of daily hits, you heard like 30 shots rain out. It ends up being that the Secret Service was shooting at someone around 17th Street who never really got through the perimeter. Someone who suffered from schizophrenia, who had previously been arrested for trying to trespass on the White House, had an FTA, a failure to appear, in a prosecution brought by Donald Trump's Washington, D.C. United States Attorney's Office through their supervision of the Superior Court system in the District of Columbia. This person was kind of known in the area as someone who would threaten and harass the White House. And it's kind of curious that they would just allow this FTA to stand and not arrest the guy. It would seem to be a high priority. Hey, guys threatening the White House, failure to appear. And maybe that would be someone you'd want to try to arrest versus going after immigrants and throwing them into camps who have been here working for 30 years and paying taxes. But I'll save that for another take. But when you go through this court filing that Donald Trump made in connection with this incident, I mean, it's riddled with lies. And when I say Donald Trump made the court filing and not Trump's DOJ, I'm giving you my opinion, of course, but it looks like Donald Trump wrote this thing. It's his language, exclamation point. It looks like Truth social media posts pasted together as a motion. And kind of shockingly, although nothing should shock us with this regime, Todd Blanche, the actual acting attorney general, signed his name to this thing. Also, Stanley Woodward, associate attorney general, Trent McCotter, principal associate attorney general, signed their name. And we know Todd Blanche will sign his name on anything about this point when it comes to Trump, but also the fact that you've got two other federal prosecutors putting their name on this document. And again, nothing should shock us with this regime, but this is in my opinion, one of the most sanctionable things. And what they talk about is they pretend that the plaintiff in this case, by the way, that was brought to block the construction of the ballroom, and they succeeded in getting an injunction, although the injunction has been stayed pending a ruling by the Court of Appeal. That's why the Trump regime is still building this Golden Ballroom, even though a federal judge issued an injunction. The injunction has stayed. It's brought by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And in this motion, they say that it's some old lady passerby who's walking her dog, who's a serial plaintiff, who brings lawsuits frivolously against the government all of the time, that she brought this lawsuit and that's what initiated this case. And it's like, that's not accurate. It's not a serial plaintiff. We'll analyze what the heck is being talked about at all. But it bears no reality to reality. And these are federal court documents right here. And so immediately after the shooting incident happened, the shooter got killed. Again, schizophrenic guy who had been previously arrested, who was known to Trump's DOJ in the White House. The Trump regime files this notice of supplemental authority to basically build the ballroom after it was blocked. And it calls it an assassination attempt. On Saturday night, May 23rd, a shooter once again sought to murder the president, his family, and his staff at the historic White House complex. We submit this urgent filing to update the court on a second attempted assassination on the president within a single month. Last night, shortly after 6 p.m., an armed assassin approached a White House security checkpoint at 17th Street, professionally pulled a high-caliber gun from a bag, and opened fire in the exact direction of the White House. And just pause there for a second. It wasn't a professional assassination job. I mean, these are serious matters. And when you treat a serious matter in this way, it was someone who was suffering from schizophrenia, not a professional sniper, who was known by the Trump DOJ before, who was instantly killed basically by the snipers on the White House and by the Secret Service as soon as this guy got there. And it shows that the Secret Service protection works. If anything, it shows, why do you need a golden ballroom? It's whatever was working worked to begin with. But when you say act like this was some professionally done, that's not what took place. And then it says, brave Secret Service officers returned fire. The gunman was killed and an innocent bystander was seriously wounded in the shooting. I think we still need to know more about that innocent bystander. Who is it? Were they shot by the Secret Service? what happened there or by the person. I mean, no more details really emerged about that. The second attack on the president in a month underscores the need for top-level, state-of-the-art security at the White House, including a ballroom, a knitted, unified, cohesive part of the East Wing project, which is vital for national security and is being constructed to ensure that the president can perform his constitutional duties in a safe and secure facility. The court's unlawful injunction has wrongfully cast a cloud of uncertainty around the future of the East Wing project. The facility will provide a safe haven from attackers, such as the one last night. And on April 25th, it will provide a high security space for future inaugurations and other events, such as the recent visit by the King and Queen and the upcoming visit in September of President Xi Jinping of China. Without this national security facility, such events are otherwise relegated to the vulnerable tents on the South Lawn, exposed to various threats, as again shown by last night's shooting. The under construction East Wing project, which is on time and under budget, includes state-of-the-art security features to repel all attacks against the president, his family, and staff of esteemed visitors. This includes heavy steel, drone-proof roofs, missile-resistant drone-proof columns, bullet, ballistic, and blast-proof glass, military-grade venting and air conditioning and heating, and much more. Together, the entire facility, which includes bomb shelters, state-of-the-art hospital and medical facilities, top-secret military installation structures and equipment, protective partitioning, and other features, is a single integrated complex unit that is vital for the national security of the United States. Then it goes on to say how this is a woman who brought this lawsuit, who is known as a serial plaintiff throughout Washington, D.C., and who has absolutely no standing at all. This is terrible, tremendously harmful case to America. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack. Now, Harry, this is not how normal people behave after incidents like this. Is not normal human behavior. And then the lying in federal court about something that you don't need to lie about. The incident is an incident. I mean, you can describe accurately and people can understand it. But when you inject all of these lies and you can't tell the truth about a single thing, then you're willing to lie to a federal judge about it. And then you wonder why nobody believes anything that you say ever, which may be the purpose of this all. Just bend reality so it doesn't exist. But Harry, what do you make of this filing?
Shameless, really shameless. We've had all kinds of instances. Trump wakes up lying and lies all day. But this instance, the ballroom, which is his dearest priority, it's actually insinuated the lies into official documents from the Department of Justice. And as you say, signed in this instance, Todd Blanche listed, and then by Stanley Woodward, both of whom, by the way, worked on the January 6th Blanche representing Trump personally. But, when I was at the Department of Justice, I worked on a couple briefs that had that high level kind of signature and participation. And man, oh man, did you make sure everything was exactly perfect. Here's a sort of big lie that permeates through the whole thing. This was not previously the big security move. This was Trump extolling the Mar-a-Lagization, as it were, of the White House and state of the art and how beautiful. And it's only by capitalizing cynically, really shamelessly on the shooting episodes that it's now become all about security. But of course, the episodes have nothing to do with the security they're talking about. The first, that they made this really screed that sounds like somebody standing up on a bus and just speaking doggerel. That was about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It doesn't even take place at the White House, but at a hotel. And then this one, as you say, Ben, zero indication that anyone in the White House was endangered for a quarter second. If anything, it sets it indicates that we're doing just fine in terms of keeping people from being shot in the White House. But this later point that you raise, they actually say, and I did some research on this today. This just seems to have come out of the fevered recesses of Donald Trump's brain. This notion that the case was brought and the standing was established by a woman walking her dog by the White House. Maybe we can start here. We know what he's talking about, by the way, and let's start here. She is not a plaintiff. She is not a plaintiff. There's no claim, no analysis of her standing because she is not a plaintiff in the case. The plaintiff is the historic trust. She's had a mild kind of consulting role with the historic trust. She has no role whatsoever. That's for starters. Second, well known, that it's such a sort of Trumpian formulation. Well known, many people say she is a serial litigator in Washington. Nobody says it unless they don't know what they're talking about. It's not true. She does, she can't. What are you talking? I don't think she's ever filed a suit at all. It's just bullshit that Trump makes up, but then gets into a brief signed by the third ranking official in the Department of Justice. Look, there are rules. I don't know whether Judge Leon, who has this case, will be taking them to task, but he certainly could. There's a really serious rule, Rule 11. And when you file a brief, and you know this, Ben, for you're a very experienced litigator, you go through it carefully, especially if someone else has worked on it, to be sure there aren't false statements of fact, because that's just a flat out violation that could subject you to sanctions. And we're talking about the third highest official in the Department of Justice. So the fact that it gets there is in and of itself mind-boggling, but really it's, completely improper. And it is we've had 3 now friggin' crazy, just nut-wing documents in the ballroom cases. And really, it's now sort of infiltrated official DOJ documents full of Trumpian lies. That is a whole nother bridge too far. And I just want to say again, because it's stunning, you wouldn't see this from the worst pro se litigator. This is all the standing, a woman walking her dog. It's not even a plaintiff in the case. And the Associate Attorney General has just advised a federal judge that that's what this is all about. If Leon wants Woodward, he could hand Woodward's head to him.
As you said, even some of the worst pro se litigants who would be deemed vexatious litigants and immediately banned from filing on the ECF court docket, the electronic court filing system, do not file motions as bad as this in every aspect. And so the fact that the DOJ is filing this thing, this slop, that whether it's a patchwork of Trump's social media posts combined with AI slop, I don't know what this even is, but as a law professor, you're a law professor, as people who practiced in federal court, it's a gigantic middle finger just to the lawyering, the profession. It'd be like a doctor showing up, and while they were, doing their checkup, they start, I don't know, putting the thermometer in their own ear and go, oh, I'm putting it in my ear. Now I'm putting it in your ear. Now I'm putting it up my nose. Now I'm putting it in your mouth. I mean, you'd look at it, but we'll go, what? It's the equivalent of that. I was searching for the right words, Harry, but I'll let you finish it.
I can't beat you, but I've got one little detail to remind the Meidas Mighty and Fed heads here. Stanley Woodward has been very involved on the defense side on January 6th, and he's the one who tried to make a big deal of supposed threats that had to do with Woodward's own candidacy for the federal bench. The guy for a long time has wanted to be on the federal bench. And for somebody like that, who may, at some point hope to come up before the Judiciary Committee and have, for among other things, I think his fate is very much in Richard Leon's hands at this point. If Leon chooses to, go after this, how can you possibly justify not knowing who the plaintiff is and misleading the court about who the plaintiff is? That's pretty elementary, I think, for any first-year law student in a reading and writing exercise, not to mention the third-ranking official in the Department of Justice.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel. Search Talking Feds. That's Harry's YouTube channel. Search it. Subscribe to it. It's Harry Litman. Subscribe to Talking Feds. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Everybody subscribe here as well.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.